Check it out, one prompt and I get all these descriptions for every table, every column, and every measure in my entire model. Let's face it, nobody enjoys the tedious work of documenting a Power BI model. I get it, it's not fun. But doing that not only creates a better user experience from people who want to consume your data, say from a self-service standpoint, for example, but it also creates a more effective surface over which AI can interact with your data by adding descriptions. For example, AI can better understand the data held in the columns that it wants to query. So today we're actually going to leverage AI to help us solve this problem and better document and optimize a model. Today we're going to use Microsoft's official modeling MCP server to make those changes, and we're going to do it in a fraction of the time. There are four main tasks that we're going to cover today. First of all, how do you connect AI to Power BI Desktop? Secondly, we're going to utilize AI to add bulk descriptions to your entire model. If you work on one of my teams, you know I'm very big on descriptions, every table, every column, every measure, and we're going to update the whole thing. The next thing we're going to work on is optimizing your model, some of those tedious things that maybe you either forget about or don't enjoy, things like sort-bys, hidden key columns, that sort of thing. And we're even going to get a few suggestions from AI on how we can make the model better. And as a stretch exercise, you may have seen people using SVG visuals, scalar vector graphic visuals. Well, we're going to create a DAX measure that will help us do that. So the first thing we want to do after we've set up that MCP server is we want to connect to the model. Please connect to the Open Sales Demo model. So the way that this works is Power BI Desktop actually spins up a little mini analysis services model on your local machine. And what the MCP server is doing is it is using AI and connecting it to the XMLA endpoint that is operating on your local device. So the first thing that it wants to know is whether or not it can use the Power BI Modeling MCP server. So you see I can deny, I can allow always, or there's also this drop down here to say allow once. I'm going to go ahead and say allow always. This is an official Microsoft MCP server, so I'm going to say allow always. And you can see here that it has found the sales demo and it is connecting to the sales demo, and now it's asking me what do I want to do. So let's add some descriptions to our model. Please look over the model and add descriptions to every table, every column, and every measure. And again, you can see here that it is asking us, do we want to allow it once or allow always? So again, I'm just going to say allow always. For every different command and function within the MCP server, it's going to re-ask that question. It is very permissions conscious. So you can see here that it first has examined the database, or the semantic model if you prefer, and it's found 4 tables, 3 measures, and 19 columns across those 4 tables. So it's going to begin the process of creating descriptions for each of those. Alright, and just like that, it's done. It has added descriptions to 4 tables, 3 measures, and 19 columns, and it gives us a little bit of extra detail. So for example, it says that the date table could use some sort by helper columns, and including the quarter number and so forth. You know what? I think that's a great idea. So in fact, that's the next item on our list. Please hide all primary and foreign key columns and any measure backing columns. Mark the date table as a date table. Apply sort by columns where appropriate. Suggest any better measures that you might have. Lay out a concrete plan, and let's get going. Alright, so we're going to let that cook for a minute, and while that's going, I actually want to come back over to Power BI Desktop, and I want to show you something. If we click on the date table, you can now see the description that it added to the date table. You can see the description that it added to each of the columns here. Take my word for it that these were not there before. In fact, actually, I can show you if we come over to Visual Studio Code. I've got the semantic model open here. We can go to definition, tables, and the date.temdal, and you can see there are no descriptions in this temdal file. And in fact, we're going to demonstrate that here in a little bit. We're going to save this Power BI report, and you'll see those update in real time. The value of it is it becomes diffable. You can actually roll back the changes as you see fit. All right, so I did ask it for a plan, and so you can see here that it has created a plan and hasn't yet touched anything. So it's saying what it's going to do is going to hide the foreign and primary key columns, hide any columns that are backing specific measures, and that makes the entire sales measure, the entire sales table a clean measures only table. And one nice thing is that it has the judgment to not hide the date column in the date table, even though that is a primary key. So that's a nice judgment. It's going to mark the date table as a date table. It's going to add some sort by columns, particularly month number and quarter number. And it's also proposed a few measures here that we are going to add. And you see it's already gotten underway. I love that I didn't ask it to fix the format strings on the existing measures, but it went ahead and did that anyways. That's nice. Okay, so now we're all done and we can see everything that it has done for us. It has hidden several columns, including the sales ID, sales date, so on and so forth. So those are our primary and foreign keys. It marked the date table as a date table. It's added some sort bys. It's updated and created some new measures. It is pointing out the fact that the auto date time is still enabled, so I might want to turn that off. Also, for some reason, the quarter number is entered as a text and not a whole number, so that's not creating a problem right now, but probably something that we would want to fix. Okay, one last flourish. You guys have probably seen people talking about scalar vector graphics and wondered how you create those. I'll be honest, pretty complicated, never done one myself, but I know AI can make it really easy for us. Please create a DAX measure that will generate a scalar vector graphic that will give us a sparkline of total sales. Alright, so we've got our SVG measure. Let's see how it did. So we're going to go back over to Power BI Desktop. I'm in the modeling view here, and you can see if we click around the data model, we've got descriptions for all of our tables, all of our measures. We've got several new measures that it created pretty quickly for us. And we're going to go over to our reporting canvas. I'm going to drop in a matrix visual. We'll give this a little space here. We're going to add customer region. And we're going to add that new sparkline measure that it just created. And there you have it. We've got a nice sparkline. You could even ask it to shade the area under the curve, for example, but that was pretty easy and AI built the whole thing for us. Now, if I come back over to Visual Studio Code, I've got open the date.temdal file, and you'll notice that it doesn't have any of those descriptions or any of the other modifications that we've recently made. The reason for that is that this model is loaded in memory, in RAM. So the changes are saved there. They're not yet saved to disk. So the first thing that we want to do is we're going to go ahead and click Save. We'll let that spin for just a second. We'll come back over to Visual Studio Code, and there are all of our descriptions for our columns. The table, if we come to the sales.temdal, you'll see that now we have columns, we have all of those new measures, and so on. If we come over to our source control section, you can see all of these changes. Again, if I open up the sales.temdal file here, you can see the old sales file, this is part of it, and then you can see the changes over here. So in particular, new lines in green, so this is the new comment, the new description for the table. This is the new description for one of the old measures. Then we have entirely new measures, as so on. So the value of it is that you are always in control. You can ask AI to do things and it is blazing fast. It is very familiar with how to do things, and because it's using the XMLA endpoint and the modeling MCP server, it can familiarize itself with Temdal, even though Temdal is a fairly new language, and it can be very, very successful and very fast doing it this way. And because we've taken the time to save our reports in Power BI project format and put them in Git, then it is completely diffable, meaning we can see what's been done in the most recent version by AI compared to a previous golden version. And we can also roll back to one of those older versions. So go try it today. Grab a report that you've been meaning to do some maintenance on, save it as a Power BI project, and put it in Git. Set up that modeling MCP server and give it a try for yourself. If you need any help with that modeling MCP server, be sure and leave me a comment down below and I can do a video on that. Be sure to get subscribed so that you won't miss our upcoming videos. I've got more coming up on how we can leverage AI to help us do our Power BI work much faster. And if you want to know more about Power BI projects, you can check out this video right here, and I'll see you next time.